Welcome to Solve It Like a Marketer and to my playlist Marketing Terms A to Z. This week's letter is P for Public Relations. As always, please subscribe and hit that bell to be notified of new episodes every week, and don't go away. Public relations, or PR for short, is a set of strategies related to managing how information about an individual or a company is disseminated to the public. Now, this is heavily weighted typically towards the media. Public relations aims to disseminate important company news or events and maintain or enhance a brand image. It may also be used to put a positive spin on negative events, and this is called crisis management. Now, there are many vehicles for PR, including press releases, news conferences, interviews with journalists, or social media postings. But let's look a little closer at some of the specific types of public relations. The first one is media relations. So this emphasizes mainly working closely with public media outlets and always maintaining a positive working relationship with them. So a media relations team often works directly with external media by directly offering company news to them, providing content and sources, and being accessible for public comment when necessary. Next one is production relations. So this is closely related to the direct operations of a company. So this department supports broad marketing plans and is often related to specific one-time endeavors such as, say, the launch of a particular product, a special campaign, or management of a major product change. Next, investor relations. So here, emphasis on the company and its investors. So this aspect of public relations handles investor events, oversees the communication of the release of financial reports, and handles the complaints of investors. Next, internal relations. Here, the public relations team focuses on the company's employees. So internal relations pertain to, say, counseling employees, ensuring that all workers are satisfied with their working conditions, and sometimes mediating issues internally to avoid public disclosure of dissatisfaction. Next, government relations. This team maintains the connection between a company and related governing bodies. So some public relations departments want to forge a strong relationship to provide feedback to politicians, sway decision makers to act in particular ways, and ensure fair treatment of the company's clients. Next, community relations. Here, the brand and reputation is aimed at the community. So the community could represent a geographical location, such as a city, or a community could be, say, a lifestyle, like condo owners. So there's also the community of current customers of the company. So customer relations is really the bridge that connects the company with its customers. Public relations often involves handling key relationships, conducting market research, understanding the priorities of its customers, and addressing major concerns. So, as you can see, public relations is, as a whole, it's really quite broad in nature, and each one of these subsets can actually be its own area of speciality. All right, so I wanted to pick up on a couple of things that I mentioned during my kind of take on or definition of what public relations is. And I mentioned very briefly crisis management. Now, I think this is a really fascinating area, and there are specialists who only do crisis management. And I've worked with organizations actually doing crisis management. And what's really interesting is that for many organizations, you got the big companies, and they have a huge public relations team, and they've got all bases covered. or at least in theory, they've got all bases covered. But for smaller or mid-sized firms or nonprofits, sometimes they won't even have a public relations team. They will have, say, one or two people who are in marketing or communications. But public relations is really, really important. And depending on what type of service you provide or what type of nonprofit you are in, spending a little time in crisis management is so important. What I found was that there can be at times kind of like a stick your head in the sand until something bad happens. And inevitably, if something bad happens and it hits the media, then everyone is just scrambling and no one has the answers. And then people start pointing fingers at everybody else, etc. So it's really good to think through potential crises. So the starting point to this is sitting down with, say, the executive team or whomever, say, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. And basically, you as the marketer or the public relations person, you basically ask them, what is every single thing that could possibly go wrong? And here is why it's such a tough conversation to have, because a lot of people in organizations, they don't want to talk about the bad stuff. Unless it happens, let's just not talk about it. Bad move. So you need to sit them down as potentially as a third party, so you have objectivity, and just ask those hard questions. What could possibly go wrong? As a step one. And then as a step two, look at, okay, if something does go wrong, how potentially might the media pick this up? And how is it a juicy story for the media? And step three, once you've thought of every possible scenario, you think about how to address those scenarios. So for every single one, you have a response. You have a logic to it that you can present. And even if this scenario or these scenarios never happen, or even if they happen a year down the road, at least you are prepared. Because there is nothing worse than finding out that something just hit the news, and you as the marketer, say you're an in-house marketing person, you're suddenly scrambling and everybody's going, we need to put out a press release. And of course, you're going to say, yeah, but what's our point? What's our take? What is our position? So this should be carefully thought out. So kind of dovetailing on this, again, I've worked with some organizations where people are afraid of the media. So they haven't been media trained, and their worst fear, and this is executives on down, their worst fear is that there is a phone call or an email from a media outlet who wants a comment. Now, this may not be a bad story that they're looking for, but they want a comment about something else related in the news. And a lot of people are really scared about this. They kind of have that, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth syndrome. And that's totally understandable. So what I always say with organizations is try and figure out who potentially are the spokespeople for the organization. Now, in a perfect world, the spokesperson would be the executive director, the company president, whomever that is. But sometimes they're not good in front of the camera or on a radio show. Written maybe is fine. Written is good because somebody else can draft that. But maybe they're not so great. So it's really important that you find somebody within the organization maybe it's a director, somebody who can be trained and will feel comfortable engaging with the media. Another little tip that I wanted to give is if the media ever calls your company or your nonprofit, it's really important that the person who takes the call, say it's the front desk receptionist, they ask what it's with regards to. The worst thing is when you get a message that says, this television station or this radio station called. Of course, your next question is going to be why? What's the story? What are they looking for? So it's really difficult because now potentially you have to get back to them, but you have absolutely no idea what they're going to be asking you. So it's really important that, say, the receptionist maybe have a list of questions. So who is calling, from which outlet, and what is it about? Like, what's the story? What are you looking for? And also, if you can get the name and the outlet, say the newspaper or the radio station or whomever, you can do a bit of a search. If you've got the reporter's name, you can do a Google search, find out what type of reporter are they. Are they looking for a scoop, or are they the type of reporter that is a little more has a little more method in terms of how they put stories together. So they do actually research and read, and they are well versed in that subject. So reporters really can range, and it's important that you're prepared for that. And the final area that I wanted to mention, and again, this sort of underlines how broad public relations is. People ask me, should I go into public relations? Well, which area? So I've got a good friend, for instance, who is in public relations, and he mainly does events. That's his thing. So he will work with for-profits, not-for-profits, doing events. And the purpose of those events is to raise awareness and to get into the media. So he will do everything from, booking the venue, creating the concept for the event, the look, the feel, how it's going to roll out, contacting all the media outlets to see if they will actually attend. What is the hook? There are many, 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 many events out there, but in order to get media out, you need a hook. So what is the hook? So that's I just want to kind of highlight that because it's kind of a really fun area, a little less serious than crisis management. So, and you can really go to town creatively. And you know what? I want to pick up on what I just said. The final point I want to make is what makes public relations difficult is, for one, media and news stories happen very, very quickly, right? Things happen at a rapid rate. Most reporters are also being bombarded by stories. They're being bombarded by people who want to get free media, basically. Right? This is called earned media versus paid media. So public relations is earned media. You're not actually paying for it. So people really want that. So it's so important, A, to build those relationships with reporters so they know who you are, and B, to have a hook. So important. What makes your story of interest to them? And the other thing to be aware of is the ebb and flow of news. So if the news is focused on a particular event that's happening right now, so it's a political event, they really may be using all of their reporters on that, and they may not care about your event. So you have to, timing is of the essence, right? So yeah, so those are my basic suggestions. I think PR is a really fascinating area. It can be really fun. You can engage both your brain and your logic as well as your creativity. As always, if you'd like to see more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button and share so that others can also enjoy my videos. If there's a marketing term that you'd like me to cover, please mention it in the comments section below. You can also buy me a coffee for those long nights researching and writing these episodes. You can catch me on Instagram and Facebook for extra content, never miss a new episode, or connect with me on LinkedIn. Again, all of that is in the comment section below, in the description area. I will see you weekly with a new video, so please stay tuned. And together, as always, let's solve it like a marketer.